Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 28th, the 149th day of the year. There are 217 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, the more things change, the more they continue to change. That at least seems to be the story of paying of student athletes. NCAA, the governing body of college sports, and the leaders of the Big Ten, Southeastern, Pac-12, Atlantic Coast, and Big 12 conferences announced a settlement last week that will allow schools to directly pay student athletes. The parties agreed to a revenue sharing plan that will allow each school to share up to roughly $20 million per year with its athletes. All Division I athletes who have played since 2016 are eligible to receive a share. Of course, this is a reversal from the punishment handed out by the NCAA over the years to schools and individuals who were, quote, guilty of paying their players. It is unclear what immediate effect the settlement will have on college sports. There is still NIL and the transfer portal, and now there's outright legal payment. The wild, wild world of sports just got a little wilder. So our G-list guests today are Gene Sullivan and Patrick Sullivan. Gene Sullivan and Patrick Sullivan will talk to us about CTE, and we'll talk to us about graduate assistantships and full-time jobs in the sports industry. So I probably got that screwed up, but Gene Sullivan and Patrick Sullivan will be here with us today. We'll have a good time. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl consulting firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our roundtable and talk to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace-Edwards. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing well. Thank you. And how are you this Tuesday morning?
I'm doing well. It is Tuesday, and it seems like Monday, but it's Tuesday.
It's actually
Tuesday.
How
was your weekend?
I had a wonderful weekend, Tom. I stayed in town and went to several cookouts, a party, a concert. Ruben Studdard did his concert in Birmingham at the Perfect Note, which is a local jazz restaurant nightclub, and it's closing this month. So they brought Ruben back in town to sort of close out the all the activities for that business. So it was a great weekend.
And how is Ruben doing?
Ruben is doing well. He and his wife just had a new baby girl.
Really?
She's about 3 months old right now, I think. Henry Cecilia. She's absolutely beautiful. So he's doing extremely well.
Is he touring or is
he is? He's on tour. He actually had to come back in town to perform here locally at the Perfect Note. So he's busy touring right now.
Okay, well, good deal. Well, you tell him I said hello.
I will do that.
Maybe we'll get him on some other time. Let's get Michael Walker on here. Good morning, Michael Walker.
Good morning, TG. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. And how was your weekend?
Oh, it was pretty good. It was fairly relaxing. You know, had a couple little things that I had to take care of, but it was a well-needed rest, you know.
Well, good deal. Hey.
Needed that. Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So, Barbara, catch us up on your world. What's happening?
Well, Tom, I got some good news for all of the consumers out there. You know, Target and Walmart both opened in 1962. And with the pandemic and everything, prices have just been going up on many of the products that we used to pay, minimal prices for. Well, both of those stores have announced that they're reducing prices on a lot of the items in their stores. And just in the last week or so, they reduced the prices on 1,500 items and said in the coming weeks, there will be even more price reductions. So that's good news for consumers. And that's something we haven't seen in quite some time. Prices have been increasing and on the rise, but they're starting to take some prices down. So that's good news for all of us.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Absolutely. And in other good news, our friend, Mr. Coach Nick Saban over in Tuscaloosa is starting a new program. He and his wife are funding a career development center for their former players. They said that, these players, many, if they have an opportunity to have a career in football, it may not last very long, but many of them after football don't have a career at all. They're not prepared for the working world. So he and his wife are funding working with the university, and they're going to fund a career development center for all their former football players. I think that's something that's really, really good.
That's great. That's
yes,
good.
It is.
I'm sure that'll help quite a few of them, and maybe they can continue on with school. And
right. That's what they said.
Graduate, they can go back and graduate. And,
right.
That's a good deal.
I'm hoping that more schools will follow suit with that. Maybe more former coaches, donors, or someone will step up, and other schools will do the same thing. Because if not, I think that would be a huge recruiting tool for Alabama to use. That after they finish playing football, that they will also help them in their career development.
Well, yeah. Okay. He found him another edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, what's up with you, man?
Well, I got a couple of things to bring to your attention, but one thing I want to ask you about your opening monologue there and the NCAA lawsuit and all that. And I read an article over the weekend where they said that it may be a situation where players that played prior to the NIL era may get some compensation or remuneration on that. What's your position on that? I certainly hope so. At least maybe Michaela get a little bit of money since she graduated not too long before that remuneration period for NIL. So you think you're going to get something?
Well, they didn't say nothing about paying people from the prehistoric era.
Yeah, I heard they were going to go back to 2016 possibly.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They've
always said that. I don't know.
I'm wondering where did that year come from? I mean, what about you guys that played in the 70s that didn't get anything?
We got $15 a month now.
That's nothing.
We got $15. I think it's interesting because I think that I just wonder how the guys feel about it. The guys who are currently playing. And I know how many of the guys who I played with feel about it. I think we played, not to say that the kids today don't, but we played for the school. We didn't really play for money. There was no money that we got other than the $15. Well, maybe some guys got something, but I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't be dependent on it. I was reading about Deion Sanders' sons and the amount of money they were getting through the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff. And I guess we couldn't brag on how much money we got. We brag on what our records were, know. And we were 10-1 one year. We were 9-2 another year. We were 10-2 another year. So I think we're proud of that. Now, if they want to give us money on top of that, that'd be fine.
You'll take it.
But I don't know. I just don't think that's something that will happen. I think our guys are proud of what we did, and we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, what else you got, Michael?
Well, I got a couple things I think you guys may find interesting, but let me start with this. TG, you got a nice little two-seater Mercedes and stuff. And Barbara, I think you drive like a Maserati or something like that. you know, those are really nice cars and stuff. And so you want proper insurance on it, But I just like to caution you guys that have these nice high-performance cars. If you have State Farm insurance and you have an accident and need a repair bill, be prepared to come out of your pocket. A gentleman from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, had a Porsche Cayenne, and he had an accident. He was ready to pay his $500 deductible to get his car fixed, and State Farm denied his claim because his claim came in at about $8,600 and something dollars, and State Farm said, "Well, we estimate the repair work on that car to be about $6,000 and something." Yeah, their repair estimate was $6,267, and the actual claim that he got was about $8,600 and something dollars. Here's the rub. He has a maintenance agreement, and you know how you get those warranties on those cars.
Right.
Well, his warranty with Porsche says if he has his car repaired by somebody else other than a certified Porsche technician, it will void his claim.
Right.
Wow.
So he went to State Farm to try to get in. State Farm said, "Well, we're not going to pay more than $6,200 for it, so we're denying it." He ended up coming out of his pocket for $8,600 to keep his car, so he wouldn't lose his contract, his warranty and stuff. So he ended up paying, and he's like, I don't have cheap insurance. State Farm's supposed to be one of the best. But Jake said no. Jake from State Farm said, "No, I'm not coming out of the pocket for that."
Jake denied him.
Jake denied him, with his khakis and everything on. He said no.
I don't understand how they can do that, Michael. I mean, at least they should have paid the $6,000, whatever their estimate was. They totally denied the claim.
They denied the claim. He ended up paying it all. And I'm with you, Barbara. I would think that they should at least pay what they came to and let him come out of pocket for the rest of
the difference, right?
Yeah, instead of him having to pay the full $8,000. And he said he didn't want to void his claim, but there is a class action lawsuit. They're not only doing that in Florida, they're doing it in Georgia and several other places. And an attorney that he hired said that what State Farm is doing is they're not taking into account the cost of labor for working on those cars. And the labor cost on working on a Porsche is about $105 an hour or something like that, just for a paint job. Okay. Right. And State Farm estimated it to be $55 an hour.
Wow.
And so the lawyer said it doesn't matter whether you have a Pinto or a Porsche, State Farm view it as the same.
Wow. Well, my car is old, so I take something, and I have a guy that works on it regularly. So I think hopefully I'm okay. So we'll see. Okay, what else you got, Michael?
Well, it's getting to springtime, and a lot of people like to hike. Barbara, are you a hiker? Do you hike, Barbara?
No, sir. I'm not. No. I'm a walker. I'll walk in, in urban areas, but not a hiker. Okay.
Well, I know Tom rides his bicycle, so I won't ask him about hiking. Well, just imagine, if you will, you got your backpack and all your stuff, and you're out there hiking at this national park in Wyoming, and you come across a little baby cub bear, and you're stopping and looking, and out of your peripheral vision, you see a grizzly charging at you. This is what's happened to a 35-year-old Massachusetts man. He was hiking, and he was attacked by a grizzly. They thought it was the mother bear, or the mama bear, as they call it. And he's out there alone with fighting this bear that's biting him. So he laid down and tried to play dead, and the bear kept biting. Luckily for him, he had some bear repellent, even though he couldn't use it because his hands were pinned behind him and the bear was mauling him. The bear accidentally bit the canister, and it shot the bear pepper spray into the bear's eyes, and that's what saved him. The bear ran away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was blessed.
He was
That's for
blessed.
sure.
You can't.
Yeah.
My understanding is you can't outrun a bear.
No.
You know.
No.
That-
The best you
that's-
can do is try to run in zigzags. That's about the best you can do. Doesn't matter about trying to climb a tree because bears can climb
They
trees
can
as well.
climb, right? But you know,
So-
that's why I don't go hiking, Michael. I figured that's their home, that's their habitat. I don't want them in my house, so I try to not to go to theirs.
We went to when we went to Alaska this past summer. I was on a hike, and they kept telling us what to do if a bear showed up, you know, and that you couldn't outrun a bear, and you had to try to make yourself big or whatever. And I just figured it was about 15 or 20 of us on that hike, and I could outrun half of them. I
So
figured
you're going to be okay. Yeah.
Get away. I might not could outrun the bear, but I could outrun the other people.
That's a good way to look at it, Tom. You can go get them some help.
That's
I
too
know,
funny.
man. They kept warning us and you know, reminding us, and so yeah, I it's like I had already scoped out. Okay, well, I could outrun him. I could outrun him.
Some more
Barbara, you got anything else?
Yeah, Tom, I want to warn all our viewers about phone scams. There's phone scams going around now. I actually received a call last week myself from a gentleman who says he was a sergeant with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, and that he left me, it was an unknown number, of course, and I didn't answer it. So he left me a detailed message and saying that if I didn't call back and make contact with them, that they were going to come to my door and arrest me. So I did a reverse lookup on the phone number, and it, you know, said it wasn't registered with anyone. And, you know, I did Google search, and of course it ended up being a scam. And the police are warning people now. They're saying that there are tons of callers, especially elderly people, that are getting calls from these scammers saying that, you know, if you don't send them $1,500 immediately, they're going to arrest you. And then they call you back and said that wasn't enough. You know, you have to send them more money. So please be on the lookout for that. Luckily, like I said, I didn't answer the phone. Even if I'd answered, I probably would have just ignored them. But check into it. If you get a call like that, please make sure you're calling the Sheriff's Department or do your own research to make sure that it's a valid call. Because I don't think the Sheriff's Department is going to just call someone and say, send us $1,500 and we're going to come to your door and arrest you. They're just going to arrest you. So yeah,
Let me ask you guys this before we move on about the NCAA paying athletes. What's your guys' thoughts about that?
I definitely think that players deserve payment. I don't know how that's going to affect NIL or how it's going to affect, you know, the schools being able to recruit players. Is going to make it an unfair advantage for schools that have more money. I question how it's going to be handled, but I definitely think they should be paying players something.
Michael?
I'm in favor of athletes getting paid. I think with all the money that the colleges are making, you know, I think that it is certainly something that's warranted. I guess my question falls in the lines of how do you make it even, or do you make it even?
Equitable,
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and when I say do you make it, is we all know that, and especially in these major colleges, that football and basketball carry the freight. And I say men's basketball and football carries the freight. But the other athletes, they're putting in hard work, sacrificing, doing everything that's necessary to represent the school in that chosen sport that the school has. So if the school has that particular sport, regardless of the amount of revenue, those athletes should participate and get paid. But just how do you make it equitable? That's my question.
Right.
And we know that it's going to be a situation of the haves and the haves not. And the rich will just get richer because they just have more resources to begin with, you know. But I was so happy when we had the lady on from the little small school in LaGrange, and they said they had an NIL collective, you know. So at least everybody, regardless of what level you're on, whether it's D3, D2, or D1, you have an opportunity to get compensated.
Okay. Yeah, I've always thought players should get paid, and I've always thought players should get paid by the school,
Right.
because that's who they're, quote, working for. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes. There's, I think going back to what you just said, it's just fair and equitable. I mean, then so be it. I just saw where one of Deion Sanders' sons is being sued for $11 million, and nobody would dare sue a kid for $11 million when we were playing because
Right.
none of us had any money.
Right. What's the basis for the lawsuit, Tom?
They got into a skirmish, and
Okay.
I've got it here somewhere, and he calls out Shiloh Sanders for his NIL earnings. He's trying to avoid a court judgment in the amount of $11.89 million. He was a security officer at Focus Academies in Dallas, Texas, where Shiloh attended the high school's AAA academy. And Shiloh allegedly attacked Darjan while Darjan was executing a disciplinary action against Shiloh after he was being disruptive in class.
Oh, wow.
Damn, so you're disruptive in class, so you end up
$11 million?
getting sued.
Wow.
And he had to declare all of his earnings. And Shiloh had been brought to Darjan's office after violating the no phone policy. Coach got Deion on the phone. And Deion heard his son was on the phone, and he got involved. And so it's just kind of a mess.
Wow.
It's just nobody would dream of suing a college football player for $11 million because they didn't have it. So
right.
I don't know. Who knows where this goes? I do know a lot of people. And you brought up what's his name? Michael played at Southern Cal, and they took his Heisman Trophy away.
Reggie.
You brought him up a couple of 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, man. It's a lot of money involved, and some guys have gotten punished, like Reggie, and we always talk about Chuck Person,
right,
losing his job, and then later on finding out that what he did wasn't a crime.
Right.
So I don't know. And I don't understand how they're going to agree to pay the players and still have NIL.
Right. That's the thing. I'm not sure how that's going to be.
And I just think about the teams I was on, and I think about if so-and-so was getting X number of dollars and so-and-so wasn't getting X number of dollars, what that would have caused on our team,
Yeah. And that's part of what I was getting at is how do you make it equitable and stuff. And, at the time, Reggie Bush, supposedly, he's come out later and said he really didn't do anything wrong and stuff. And we all know how that is. The one comparison I like to make, which made me think that it was ludicrous, is the fact that everyone else that's in a discipline, an area of study, they hold job fairs. They put you in touch with recruiters and headhunters and everybody to try to help you find a job. Isn't this the same thing? Pretty much is when you come to the NBA, you're going to need an accountant. You're going to need an advisor. You're going to need this. Let's get you set up so when you get there, you won't make all those other crazy mistakes. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing,
Yeah, I agree. I think, I did some work for Auburn with the athletic department, and where I worked with the athletes, both male and female, basically around the kind of thing that you just mentioned, Michael, talking about life. It was a life skills class.
Right.
And it wasn't, it was how you maneuver, because I could go in there and ask those student athletes, do you know where Sanford Hall is? And they wouldn't know. Do you know what goes on in Sanford Hall? And they wouldn't know. And it's just, college is more than about just that particular sport. There's a whole lot that goes on there. And so you talk about being fair and equitable. A lot of what they don't get hurts.
Absolutely.
So let's move on. You guys got anything else? We're gonna go to Sean because she's got a minute for us. Sean, you got a minute for us?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Yesterday was Memorial Day, a day for remembrance of those who died in service to our country. Originally called Decoration Day from the earlier tradition of decorating graves with flowers, wreaths, and flags. During the first national commemoration, former Union General and sitting Ohio Congressman James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery, after which 5,000 participants helped to decorate the graves of more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers who were buried there. In his speech, he said, "We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke. But we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue." James A. Garfield, May 30th, 1868, Arlington National Cemetery. Thank you for your service. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. So let's move on, to our G list. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list. And so our G list guests today, there are two of them. There is a mother and son. And so Jean Sullivan has spent much of her life as the wife of a football coach. This partnership allows her the privilege of serving in different communities, mentoring, traveling, and developing many fond friendships. In 2019, Jean's husband of 50 years passed away with a diagnosis of CTE. She's going to discuss CTE with us, and we'll talk about CTE and what that is and what it means. And then Patrick Sullivan is also with us. Patrick currently serves as the Regional Sales Director for Electrophysiology Division of Abbott Labs, a global leader in the healthcare field. He manages a team of sales representatives and clinicians dedicated to selling and supporting the life-saving devices in the cardiac space. So we'll get into that. And they both, Patrick and his family have been instrumental in the development of the Pat and Jean Sullivan Comprehensive Head and Neck Cancer Survivor Care Program. And we'll get into that as well. So let's welcome Patrick and Jean Sullivan, and we'll go from there. Good morning.
Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
Doing well.
We're doing very well.
So, I guess we'll go ladies first. So, Jean,
Okay.
so tell us about the Head and Neck Cancer Survivorship Program.
Well, while Pat was playing, really coaching at UAB in 2003 and 4, he was diagnosed with throat cancer. And as people that go through cancer, they realize the difficult radiation and chemo you go through, but head and neck cancer is totally different, where it affects your swallowing and breathing and all these other issues. So he went through the treatment, had issues, and the issues continued. But there really wasn't a lot of support for the survivors as you you go through these. So we started a program called the Sullivan Survivorship Program to help those with continuing issues from throat cancer.
And Patrick, so and you're
Yes, sir.
involved in this as well. Tell us about your end of it.
Well, I think one thing that Mom mentioned, like, since it has so many different areas that have challenges, the thing that we noticed as a family, caring for somebody that was going through the issues, like, you didn't know who to go talk to. There, you have surgeons, you have oncologists, you have respiration therapists, you have like masseuse, you have nutrition. And I think one of the things that we recognized from just a family caregiving standpoint is we needed that one point of contact that there wasn't. And that was our hope in creating this survivorship clinic, was to provide the support for the family as well.
And then Gene, I think later on you guys determined that Pat had CTE, which is nothing positive, I guess. I don't know how they say it. Let me
Well, it is a progressive neurodegenerative brain disease that is caused from repetitive hits to the head and concussions. Pat had a teammate, and you may remember Ray Easterling that played with the Falcons. Tom, you the special teams and safety. In 2012, he passed away. He committed suicide, but he had dementia and other issues. And as these issues were talked about, Pat realized that these were a lot of the issues he was fighting, whether it be, and a lot of other players, anxiety, depression, people have paranoia, delusion, and then memory loss. They lose executive function. They can't process things like they used to. Their brain feels funny, but they don't know exactly what's going on. Pat would later talk with Terry Beasley about it. Mike Cohen. All these have passed away and have been diagnosed now with CTE. I don't think Mike and Terry's diagnosis is back yet totally, because you can't diagnose CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, until someone's passed post-mortem. They're hoping to diagnose it in the living, but as of yet they can't. Pat, in his later life, he passed when he was 69. He ended up having dementia, and he died of stage 3 CTE. And if he had lived probably another year, he would not have remembered us. And a lot of these college athletes, pro athletes, they don't realize the damage concussions and head injuries is causing to the brain.
And that's tough. And Patrick, you played as well, right?
I played 4 years, and I played 4 years in college. I was at 3 years in Auburn, and then 1 year at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. I did. So I have a lot of friends, a lot of that this is a topic I'm very want to advocate for, because I've seen it live out, and not only my dad, but obviously his friends and some others. And then recently, back in February, my mom and my nephew and I went to, they call them the Concussion Legacy Foundation, which is a part of the Boston Unite Brain Bank, where they do all of this research. They bring families of these legacy donors together to share their stories. And we went to one of these huddles in Las Vegas in February, and just spent a whole weekend. One, learning about the research, learning what's being done. But the second thing, sharing like our stories and hearing others, and how eerily similar they were. And we couldn't walk away from that. I couldn't walk away from that event, not feeling like I needed to do something, because it is something that, one of the things that we like CTE, and almost, you'll even see like on the Tom Brady roast and Gronkowski, like they kind of joke about CTE, but truthfully, it is heart-wrenching what the patient is going through, as well as the caregiver is going through. And like Mom mentioned, from headaches to loss of attention to short-term memory loss, suicidal thoughts, impulse control. There's so many symptoms, and it's progressive. So normally it shows up about probably anywhere from 8 to 10 years after you have the repeated hits. And it's not only associated with concussions. Like we're talking about sub-concussive hits. Sub-concussive meaning like you don't have to get a concussion or a stinger or get your bell rung in order to have these types of symptoms and develop this condition. And so, like, say for example, like for boxing and sparring, any kind of MMA, hockey, playing soccer and just doing head balls. I sat next to one of a father of a 26-year-old who played soccer. He doesn't remember his son ever having a concussion ever. But yet he played soccer toward the end of his life. He was 26 when he passed. He developed a lot of these symptoms that we were talking about. And he was in law school, walked up to the 17th floor of the building that he was in and jumped off.
Oh.
How do you reconcile that? You don't. And so there's in the Unite Brain Bank, which is in Boston University, they have roughly 1,800 brains that they've been collecting over the past probably 15 years or so. And like we're advocating for healthy brains as well as those that feel like they are suspected to have issues, because over 40% of the young athletes that have donated their brain under the age of 30 had CTE.
Wow.
40% of the athletes that donated their brain had CTE. So yeah, it's concerning. And so like when I talk to people, and if given the platform and the opportunity, I want to educate the soccer players out there, the parents of kids that are putting their kids in tackle football now at 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. There's a statistics that's like for every additional year that you are playing, you have a 15% greater likelihood of getting CTE.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like I'm not meaning to like throw a bunch of statistics at you, but it is real. I mean, in the general population, yes, CTE is not in the general population. It's probably less than 1%. But those in the sports in the sport world that we live in, it is something that I think we need to pay attention to and hopefully prevent. And that's our, like, I'm not against football. I've played football. I love football. There's so many friendships and relationships and lessons to be learned from football, as well as soccer and boxing and all of these other sports. But I think there's a way that we can, one, do it safer, which I think they are trying to do it safer, like targeting penalties in football, the kickoff rules, wearing the safer helmets. All of those are wonderful steps. But to me, the next step is to prevent, younger kids from playing it so they don't have the repetition, the repetitive hits at the younger ages. If people want to play it from 14, 15 through high school, then at that point, that's great, but they should be more informed.
I think about how we used to minimize things,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's wrong with him? Well, he had his bell rung.
Right.
And that was okay. He just had his bell rung. He'll be okay. And now we know that maybe it's not okay. So let me get Bart.
Well, not only that, but you applaud it. You applaud
Right.
them if they get knocked out, and they stand up and they get back in there, and like what a warrior, what a true fighting spirit he has.
Yeah.
Well, truthfully, like Tua Tagovailoa, like right now,
Yes.
after seeing a lot of the hits that he has taken over the past several years at Miami, is hey man, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not worth it if you can't spend time with your family, if you don't know who you are, if you can't have meaningful sentences with your kids or grandkids, or one, you end up passing away and no longer there. I mean, it's it's something that we should all just be mindful of.
Barbara, you got a question for the subject?
I do, and then I was doing my research on the topic over the weekend, and research says odds of developing CTE may increase by 30% for every year of tackle football played, and they're recommending that no child, should play tackle football prior to the age of 14. So, what advice would you give the parents right now? I mean, of course, there's nothing but tackle football out there. I know that they're pushing to have more flag football, maybe, but I don't think that's in effect right now. So what advice would you give parents right now, Patrick, that are considering, if they've got a 6 or 7-year-old child that wants to play football, maybe the dad played football, and so he's all gung-ho about for the child to play, but what would you suggest they do?
It's a great question. I think the best thing that you can do is help educate those parents that are out there, because ignorance is not an excuse. Naivety is just not an excuse anymore when there's so much, when there's people like us that are out there that are pushing it and wanting to help educate them. I think parents should take their pride out of it, because that's really what it is the pride. And I would start a league.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, if you're an advocate for something, there are enough parents that are out there that and I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out which way I'm going to go with this, because there's multiple different. There's one, you can just go along with the crowd, and it's like, well,
right.
Everybody else is doing it. Hey, it's not going to affect me.
Right.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, Dad, he kind of thought that with like chewing tobacco. It's like, hey, I won't ever get cancer. And like, so there's the lessons to learn, like cancer and these types of conditions. They don't discriminate, and you can be affected by it. So to me is if you know of somebody, if you know a league that need, like, hey, I'll come help start one. There are people that are advocates that are out there that can get it done, and that's my hope. And you're right, there's not enough flag football, although like it is being recognized. It's in college now. I've seen our high school actually has a flag football team now that just went to state in Birmingham, and so it's not growing as fast as we'd like for it to, but every flag football team that starts is somebody that could help, potentially down the road. So
yes,
I take small steps.
yes, thank you.
So, hey, Gene, I knew Pat from high school.
Right. Y'all played together.
Yeah, and
right.
and I mean, everybody admires you. Everybody. I mean, I'm with you, Pat. I loved playing football. I mean, it was great. It was great. I'm wondering now if this information had been out there when I was playing, if I would have been as enthusiastic about it. And I also wonder about Gene spouses. Everybody loves your husband. Everybody says he's great, he's wonderful, and all this stuff. And then you're there in the evenings and maybe see the pain that goes on that may be associated with it. So I don't even know if this is a question, but I just think it's such a, I don't know. It kind of blows me away. And then I've been kind of, I mean, I had a couple of blows to the head, and hopefully I didn't have too many. But anyway, I don't know what I'm asking you here.
Well, Tom, what it does, I don't know whether he would have thought football was worth it or not. But what I realize as a wife, it's not worth it to me when I don't have him here to spend the rest of my life with.
Yes.
And when I go to children's high school graduations and he's not there, I see now our first great grandbaby being born, and he's not there to share it. I see our children that play baseball or other sports that are they're achieving things, and they're achieving things in school. And I don't see him. He's not here to share it with me and to share it with them, and just to be there, to have them come over and have the joy of being with our family and his brothers and sisters and extended family. So there are just so many times that I'll look back and he's not here, and whether he would have felt like it was worth it, I can't answer that. I do think that they're trying to make football safer, whether it's with helmets or I don't know if you remember, Tom, a coach named Buddy Stevens. He coached at Tulane, and he was there at Tulane when Pat was at TCU. He then went to Dartmouth, where he played college ball, and he was aware of head injuries. And he went to the engineering department and had them make tackling dummies, robotic tackling dummies. And so he vowed that if a player came to Dartmouth, they would never tackle another Dartmouth player. They tackle robotic dummies. And now the NFL has some of those too. So there are people that are trying to make things safer, and it needs to continue.
Michael, you got a question?
Yes, I do. Good morning, both Gene and Patrick.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. And I
Thank you.
just want to say you to be commended on the work that you're doing. As difficult as it may be, it is certainly honoring an Auburn hero, and hopefully it can make a difference in people's lives. I have a question for both of you, and Gene, I'll start with you. The first part of my question is, from your vantage point, do you think there's anything on the horizon that they're working on that may help to avoid chronic traumatic encephalopathy? Is there something out there that could do it, that could avoid it, or is there a way to cure it once you get it, or is there a way to cure it?
Well, they have a new study that is working on blood to diagnose it in the living. And it's Bain Brank CTE study. And number one, you have to people donate their brain after they're passed away. They give blood yearly, and they do a neurological test. And with these blood biomarkers, they're hoped to be able to identify CTE and then find a cure and be able to treat it. Right now, they use, I think, medications for dementia and things like that, because those are the symptoms that this causes. But they're working on it, and that's their hopes. And that was one of the reasons we had the fundraiser walk, the CTE, in April. And that was to raise awareness of CTE and to raise funds for research.
Great. Thank you. And Patrick, my question for you, I know that you're working in the medical device business and providing a lot of different types of equipment and stuff. And you're doing a lot of work on cancer and heading up the neck and head cancer survivorship initiative. Is there anything on the frontier to help alleviate or eradicate cancer from your vantage point?
I think that's a difficult question. I think because there's so many different types of cancers that are out there. I think they are, like prostate cancer and breast cancer, they've made tremendous strides. And a lot of that is because of the focus and the money that's gone toward the diagnosis of it and the treatments of it. I think with this particular CTE, when you're looking at, I think it's important to understand kind of how it's diagnosed first, because we've said that you can only diagnose CTE with like post-mortem after somebody dies, but there's a certain type of protein that is in the brain that once they do a brain autopsy and they slice it up and put it on microscope, they can see this, they can stain it, and they can see this the protein. And depending upon where it is, how often they see it, and how much of it is, that's what goes into the 4 stages of CTE. So that's really important about that. Like Mom said, I think we hope at some point. I don't know that we can ever get away from, like, we live in a very collision oriented world. Most of the sports that we play are collision. I don't know if we can ever get away from it altogether. I think we can make it safer, but from a cancer perspective, I don't think the human body is very complex, and then there's abnormal cells that grow. So I don't know that we can ever get away from fully eradicating cancer. I hope to live in a world to one day not have cancer, and then once we die, and then everybody will be cured. So yeah. It's a great question. It's one that I wish I had a great answer for. I work primarily in the cardiac space, dealing with abnormal rhythms of your heart, and how to provide therapy for that.
Okay.
And CTE doesn't just come from football. I heard you guys mention soccer and some of the other sports that I never would have imagined.
Right. Yeah. Rugby, boxing, wrestling.
Yeah.
Anything that is, your front lobe, you're hitting constantly. Head boxing, soccer. Yeah.
And when I know, we're really talking about sports a lot right now, but we've seen it. There's a considerable amount of military families that are dealing with CTE right now as well, because of the concussion, the percussion of the ammunition that they're using, the large caliber guns and weaponry that they use. They are seeing grenades, and just being around the noise. They are dealing with this just as much. I don't know. I can't draw a comparison of actually the prevalence of both, like in sports and military. But we did have families at our walk recently that were part of the military community.
Right.
I think Sean, you guys both met Sean earlier. Sean has put a message in the chat that says she has an 8-year-old son, and she won't allow him to play tackle football. He plays flag football, and she gets a lot of pushback from family and other people because she won't allow him to play tackle football. Is there some encouragement that you guys would have for her?
I would advise these parents to do as much research, look on the internet, Google CTE, Google youth sports and CTE, and she will, I think, have a lot of support.
Right.
The one thing that I would say about that is, I mean, she's been blessed and honored with taking care of her child. And until that child is grown and out of the house, she gets to make the decisions on the welfare of that child, and with the knowledge that she has, and whatever backing that she has, she should honor that first and foremost. So it's not the others. I know, and I hear from family members, but please don't listen to her peers that are, because that's a pride, and that's a lack of knowledge. That's an ignorant statement, because they just don't know. And truly, you're not affected by this until you are. And I think that's the one thing that I would say, and is one of the reasons that I think God puts us through situations to be able to empathize with others, and to be able to advocate for others. And if Dad having gone through the cancer, and if Dad having gone through CTE is a reason for Mom and I and my sister to help somebody else down the road, then I'm not saying I would gladly step into that role, because I don't want my dad not to be here, but I do want to honor his legacy and honor his memory and what he stood for, and I think that he would I would want to use the platform that he's given us in order to help those that may not be able to advocate for themselves.
Right. And as we know, so many of his teammates and others that are going through it now, and they're suffering in silence because they don't know exactly what's going on. They don't know where to get help. And so we want to bring awareness to it.
It's a silent struggle.
It is.
It's like when CTE, and one of the things that I walked away from that Legacy event in Las Vegas was you're very alone, because one thing it's a mental it affects you mentally, and Mom mentioned like hallucinations and paranoia. Why was he that snappy, or why was he that, like, his mood swings or whatever. Like, yeah, you at some point you'd want to push him away, but it wasn't him. Yeah. And you knew it weren't. But what challenged us is we thought all of the issues that Dad was experiencing from CTE was as a result of his throat cancer, and he had carotid stents put in his carotid arteries, and we thought like he was not getting enough oxygen to the brain as a result from like the radiation and the chemo and others. So we had these dual diseases and conditions that we were trying to comprehend and tease out, but we just didn't know a whole lot about the CTE. So it was difficult, and nobody's at home with you when they're doing this, and they can put a brave face on, and just like when we get on the call today, it's like, hey, how are you doing? We're doing great. Well, I might have had a crummy morning, but I probably is not going to say that, on a forum where I'm talking to people I've never met before. Actually, I've had a great morning, real truthfully, but most people wear masks, and they don't show them true selves. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Michael, Barbara, Gene, Patrick?
I just want to say to both Gene and Patrick, thank you so very much for coming on. It was very insightful, very frank conversation. And I'm sure that our people that are listening learned something from it. And again, I want to commend you for the work that you're continuing to do. Thank you. You're making Auburn proud.
Thank you, Michael.
I hope so. Thank y'all. And if y'all have questions about this or want to talk to somebody, I think Mom and I would both agree that like our phones are open. We have a heart to want to serve others. And if we can help anybody that is listening, or maybe have a family friend or that may be going through something similar, please get in touch with us.
And that's a good point, Patrick. So what if you suspect somebody's going through something that they kind of push people away because they don't want people to know what they're going through or what have you? How do you deal with that?
I think you probably try to seek others that you know of, maybe that have had similar issues. If you think it's CTE or concussion related or brain disease, Concussion Legacy Foundation has a free helpline called the CLF helpline, and it's free. Anybody can call. They can recommend physicians in your area to help. They can walk you through steps that may give you some help and resources. And talk to friends, and that will lead to another friend. And as Patrick said, I think most everybody has our phone number, and we'd be happy to talk to anybody and give them as much advice or help that we can.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's been very enlightening. And,
thank you. Enjoyed seeing all of you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the insight, and
thank you.
How I felt about Pat. And,
well, he loved you, and y'all had a great relationship, and
he's a great,
thank
guy.
Appreciate that.
I always say this, but I remember as a freshman walking around John Carroll, and boy, they would wear those leather jackets on Friday, and it was a big deal. And I said, man, I'm going to get me one of those jackets.
Yep, and you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah,
Tough.
it is.
So,
It is.
thank you so much, Gene,
Thank you, Tom.
for
Thank you,
talking.
Michael, Barbara.
Thank you.
They did call me from John Carroll, Gene.
Oh, good. Okay.
Dan called me.
Yes, great.
So I guess I'll be at the next meeting.
Well, good. I hope so. Look forward to seeing you. Yeah.
Okay, you as well. Thank you so much. We
Have a good day.
appreciate it. All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, my closing comment, or as I see it, guys who played back in my era, the 1970s, generally will comment positively on college athletes being paid today. Most of the ones I know are in favor of it, but some question, would it be the same? My answer is an honest, I don't know. Playing in those days took a lot of pride, a ton of want to, and the grit to hang in there for a scholarship, which was surely worth it, and $15 a month. So no, it wasn't about the money. So when my teammates and I get together, the fun and the laughter is not about how much money we were paid to play, but it's more likely about the years that we went 9-2, 10-1, and 10-2, and how proud we were to post those records up against Auburn teams of all times. It wasn't about the money, and I wonder what that would have felt like if, in fact, we were playing for money. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank our G-list guests, Patrick and Gene. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it on this April the 28th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. And if you've got an extra one, give it to somebody today who might need it. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.